Azriel and Cassian are just grinning. Maybe it's because he's like in his main. He's like mission. Have her hate Tamlin. He's like no, and then they just start grinning when she turns around.
Welcome back to the Book Breathing Bitch Queens podcast. I'm Sam.
And I'm Allie. And this week we are jumping into chapter 14 and 15. And so yeah, we've just been swept up, and in 13 we get taken to the inside of the house, and 14 is just our just first moments in the night. In Velaris, not the Night Court, and then we meet Cassian and Azriel.
Sorta.
We hear
Sorta.
them.
And Amren.
Have some. And Amren, yes. And technically Moore is also there too. But we get that first little interaction, and Feyre's like, I'll do a nap instead. We get some interesting discussion with Nuala and Cerridwen?
I say Cerridwen.
Okay, Cerridwen, sure. And that's that. Chapter 14 is just very short, and it's just like a little conversation, and then her avoiding the Inner Circle. And then in 15, we wake up from our nap and we go see Velaris, or parts of it. And some interesting tense conversations with Rhys, and a lot of like sort of world building / information. We get some magic discussion and displays, and then we end the chapter with somewhere in 15 they talk about how they're going to go to dinner that night, and then they start to go to dinner and arrive just outside, or like on the porch of the House of Wind. 15 in the end of 15, and then it ends with just right before we're about to meet, or we see Cassian and Azriel.
We share some thoughts. A thought for a thought.
Yes,
we have our first.
That's a very classic.
Yeah.
The thought for a thought, and then it ends with us seeing Cassian and Azriel, and then 16 will go into the dinner. I think 16 is just the whole dinner.
Yeah,
which that'll be a fun chapter too, because there's so much in that.
I will say we have bipolar Feyre in chapter 14. Bipolar baby girl. Don't leave me alone. I don't want to be by myself. Please don't make me see people. I'm going to go take a nap. I kind of want to meet your friends, but I definitely don't want to meet your friends.
Yes. Yes. She just seems like in denial a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like
she's overwhelmed. She's definitely, I mean, she's grieving and angry, like she's still kind of
12 hours out from Amren.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get it. But yeah, I was just like, babe, make up your mind. You chilling or you going home? What's happening here? Also, I know that, and this isn't necessarily a critique because I get it, but the amount of like times that she either like sort of actively or inactively compares the Night Court and Rhys to Tamlin and Spring Court is crazy, especially when you realize that like her shields are not fully up and he's hearing a lot of this. And I get like all she knows of Prythian is the Spring Court Manor, really. She doesn't even know the full and so like it's like if that's your only experience, that's what you're expecting. But like the levels of like straightforward, like people are gonna weep over me and I'm not gonna get any answers, and what should I, even just to like what I should wear to dinner, where she was like, I wanted you to stay in my comfy clothes, but if it's anything like Spring Court, I need to wear the nice dress. Which of course lends itself really well for like in 16 when we finally see that like it really doesn't matter and that there is this big difference between the courts. And that's good for the reader too, because that all we know of Prythian is Spring Court and stuff, and so highlighting those differences. But she's definitely in a space where it's like she has a very small view of Prythian, and she even says that at the end, right? She's like, there's so much of the world I don't know about, and she feels kind of stupid for it. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting. And then Rhys is just like hearing a lot of this, and it's probably just like, keep your mouth shut, like she'll figure it out.
That's probably why he wanted to take her out to see Velaris. Like he probably would have done that anyway, but he's like, all right, we're gonna you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably also why I just feel like he probably saw this as an added bonus. He's like, oh, I'm gonna show her that we can be normal and we can have
Yeah,
fun,
yeah.
and like,
Well, and then it's not what you expected, right? Like, I'm not going to take you to
yeah,
Hewn City and throw you in a dungeon like everybody thinks that we're doing. Like, fucking
yeah.
chill.
And that's the best evidence for it anyway.
Yeah.
I do also
Although it
like
does
how
piss
that,
her off. Velaris does piss her off a little bit, though, too. So,
yeah, I forgot how much it pisses her off. But
mm-hmm.
I see, I do get what she's saying, but yeah, it's very interesting. But because that's in
Well,
15.
especially because it wasn't even her fight to fight, right? Like, she's like, I was fucking ruined for your guys' shit. I was a human,
Yeah,
and you just have this city just chilling? Like, what the fuck? So I get it.
yeah. It's kind of like Bryce, with, you know, the like how mad she was
Oh,
about
when they
yeah,
closed down, when they
yeah.
wouldn't let
It's
the
a very
mortals into the
similar kind
city. Yeah.
of feeling. Um, but yeah, so 14, I do think it's funny, or interesting how she said Rhys, the chapter opens, or the part opens with "Welcome to my home," and her, instead of saying "Wow, his home, he had a home," she says "A city, a world lay out there." And to me, that just goes, Rhys brings you to his home, you see this. She sees him as her doorway to the rest of the
Hmm.
world, to a full
Yeah.
life, to whatever. It's, for especially like it's the opening of a part, and especially after a book like this,
Yeah.
yeah, in the first part, it's definitely, it feels very symbolically
Well,
meaningful.
especially because she was supposed to be like, the not High Lady, but the Lady of the Spring Court,
Mhm.
and not never once did she either ask, right, to see more of it, or was she allowed to see more of it, and so she didn't, right. The place that she's supposed to be in this upper echelon position in this court, she doesn't see as an open door to the world, and yet
Yeah,
here, where she's destitute and is
technically,
has
but yeah,
and doesn't have, I mean, like, he has a
just a
job offer,
regular
but like
person.
really, she's like, I'm gonna be a beggar here in this weird, but yeah, she does see it as being like this sort of portal to a whole world.
Hmm.
Not to stay on brand with SJM portal gate talks. I don't
Yes.
really have anything until the next page.
I just thought it was funny. I thought it was interesting that she's just what she's afraid of. When she's talking about Amarantha, it's interesting that she's afraid to see the damage. She's
Yeah.
curious, but she's also like afraid to see things torn up.
Mm-hmm.
And a little different also because she wanted to go clean up and help the villagers before,
Yeah.
but maybe that's just different, or maybe she'd already seen the damage, and so whatever. And then I also thought it was funny she's just afraid uh that she would get horny. There's no servants here. It's just gonna be hard to what did she say? Yeah,
There'd be
it's
no
gonna be
escaping
hard to
him.
avoid seeing
Yeah,
him. Yeah,
there
you'd
would be
definitely
no
be fucking.
escaping him.
Yeah,
But that's also part of that, like, a little bit of that bipolar sort of nature of her in this chapter, where it's like she doesn't want to be alone at the Moonstone Palace,
mm-hmm.
right? And so she's like, take me with you. And then she's kind of like, well, shit, I don't know that I actually want to hang out with him either, but I don't want to be
Yeah,
alone, but I can't handle all these people at the front door, and I'm not ready for it. So I'm going to go into this room here to be by
mm-hmm.
myself. Um, but yeah, I think it's just like she's a little wishy washy in this. I think she's just overwhelmed. Like, she doesn't want to be
Yeah,
locked up. She doesn't want to feel like she can't leave somewhere, right? And certainly there's no escaping the palace as much as it is, as big as it is. Like, was she gonna go downstairs? No,
yeah.
thank you.
Listen. She's
Um,
choosing to take a nap. So there's
yeah,
that.
but yeah, and like she does have Cerridwen and Nuala with her, so like maybe that seems a little bit of a safer like company to keep, and like they're away enough to where she can have her space, but she knows that they're still there, kind of a thing. But yeah, she's a little overwhelmed by being like, oh, me and Rhys are sharing 2,000 square feet right now, and that's a bit much.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I think it's because she's afraid she's gonna get horny. I think
Yeah,
she already senses it, and she's like,
with his bedroom eyes.
I know. I can't believe she said that. For a second, I was like, "Oh, is this where he puts that little fantasy into her head?" Because it
No,
just
that's
seems
much
like something she
later.
wouldn't say, but maybe it is. Okay. I also was wondering why. So, do you think there's anything to the there's no more mortal cities left? Is that because they were all destroyed 50 years ago when Amarantha came? Is that just like
Oh,
just cuz? It seems kind of weird that there's no cities, but it's a very small strip of land. But I did think it's when
I
it's not. She didn't say there had not been cities on theirs because it's so small. She says there were no more.
I think
And
it's probably that because they're this small. This is all speculation, but right, it's a
mhm,
small section of this island continent, what the island, right? This large
yeah,
island, and I'm wondering if because they're connected, it's a small place connected to this larger place that they are disconnected from. That the only way for them to thrive would be through trade and things within Prithian, and because they're cut off from that, that they don't have the resources to be able to build up. Like they don't have the resources to thrive in their tiny little mortal section. Because she says, right, the on the continent there's cities, like there's mortal cities on the continent, and maybe that's because
yeah,
it's bigger, there's more trade, there's more resources and things
yeah,
because it's more land. And maybe it's just like they've just kind of been dwindling because they're isolated in a
yeah.
way. And so, but yeah, I didn't.
I'm
I mean,
just
I
like
didn't
wondering at the
highlight it, but
timeline and
yeah,
stuff
hmm
because she said there were no cities left. And I
yeah.
just
So it's
wonder
like
what is the history of that land? What were the
yeah,
great cities?
yeah,
And maybe it is
and
harkening back to when there was no wall and it was like a Fey and human city, and that's why
hmm
it's they're not anymore or
yeah,
something. But I was like, even a human would see this as like 50 years ago is like history. Like you would
yeah.
be like
But the
that city
war
is
was
destroyed.
500 years ago. The wall went up 500 years ago. So maybe it's like
Hmm.
once they were given that land,
Oh
maybe they
right, because
had
Amarantha,
cities.
the wall is still there, so Amarantha can't destroy
Yeah,
it.
and so maybe they had maybe they tried to establish cities and they did for a while, but then they just kind of
Yeah,
fizzled out or whatever. Or maybe that they're the cities that were there were completely wrecked in that 500-year war and they just never were able to rebuild in the same way because the population was smaller and because they're isolated and whatever. So who knows?
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of questions. Like there's a
It's
lot of
very
space to
interesting.
be like, what the fuck happened there? But I think
Hmm.
that adds to it's probably because we can't know because then we would know who the fuck her mom is.
Yeah,
Also,
true.
I'm counting how many times Nesta calls herself a witch. It's like 7 times.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
she makes witch references to herself all the time. Even talking about putting a spell on somebody and like he fell under my witchcraft and I'm like, babe. If anybody's
Hmm.
like, I didn't see it coming, I'm like, did you not read the book? Did you not see that?
Did you not read the book like us? We do be psycho. We do be finding stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and then we meet Cassian and Azriel.
Yeah.
And I always get confused at who speaks first, but it's Cassian who says,
It's
"Hurry up,
Cassian
Ulysses,"
first, yeah.
and then, uh,
Well, and then so Cassian says at some point, I wasn't the one who hauled me out of bed just to fly down here. And then he calls Azriel a busybody. And I'm wondering it's because they were not, well, I mean, I don't think that they were there at the like retrieval, right? Because we talked about the growl. What was that growl?
yes.
I don't think they were there. And so I think
Although
it's
it's
like
been
at
like 16 hours, so they could have been, right?
maybe. But at some point, Azriel on the next page says, like, right, he says, welcome, sorry, Cassian says, welcome home, bastard. I sensed you were back. And then it's followed up by Azriel's voice who says, I sensed you were back. More filled me in, but and he stops. And so, like, maybe he was there
Yeah.
when they picked him up or not, but I'm thinking maybe they weren't there. And that's why Cassian calls him a busybody. Because could you imagine Azriel, fucking stealthy, quiet boy Azriel, like pounding on Cassian's door, and he's like, babe, 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 they got her. They got her. Moore told me that she's here. We gotta go ask him about this shit now. And like, we gotta go figure out all the hot gossip. We gotta figure out what's happening. I wanna know everything about her. And that's why Cassian's like, I didn't pull myself out of bed because you wanted to be a little gossip queen. And I love
It's so
it being
funny.
like busybody to Azriel. And Azriel's just like, tell me what's going on. What's up? Like Azriel is like, especially because like like he's the spy and shadows tell him all the secrets. He's a goss. He's like, I need
Yeah,
all.
he
I
is. I
want.
didn't really. I
Can
forgot that's what
you
busybody
like?
kind of means.
Yeah, it's just like him and the Surreal drinking their tea in the
Boo.
forest.
Someone
Just
needs to
yeah.
make that fan fiction. Thank you.
Just what did you hear? What do you know?
Hmm. That's funny. I do like. I thought it was cute how Reese is just like holding back a smile this whole time.
Yeah,
Um, it gives very like. It's very cinematic.
Yeah.
Like the two things, Feyre, and he's sort of talking to her as they're pounding on the door. I don't know. Like the whole
Mm-hmm.
scene is very like
I
that.
do love, and I think she does this really well in this chapter, is that like we get the dynamics of these people before even seeing them. Like we
Mhm.
get that there's this loud one who is more crass and is kind of the smart ass and is like willing to call his high lord a bastard and a prick. And then we
Mhm.
get this like smooth, quieter, like whatever. We get we get Azriel's personality real quick. We get Cassie's. We get Amren loud and clear who she
Yeah.
is. And then you get like the smirking from Rhys, especially when he's like, I might not be able, um, right? Those two in the antechamber might not be on the list of people you should bother knowing if they keep banging on my door like children. And, in regards to the two bastards at my door, it's up to you whether or not you want to meet them now or upstairs, like a wise person, take a nap since you're still looking a little peaky. And then, blah, 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 or yeah. So, like, while I beat the hell out of them for talking to their high lord like that. Like it's already
Mhm.
this sarcastic, it's a little playful,
Mhm.
and she's already like, this is very casual. Like what you guys are, this is a whole, and like it almost has that family friend vibe right out the gate. Like she's
Mhm.
so fucking confused, being like, what? Like no, but she's like, Lucian is Tamlin's best friend and
Mhm.
would never talk to him like even close to this, and it's like they're playful and they're mocking and they're talking shit and like not in the like, pretty words laced with insults, just like, it's the fucked up words laced with love.
Mhm.
And she like gets it right like straight away.
The closest probably that they ever get that we see now, they might have Lucian and Tamlin and her might have stuff off screen, but like in the Glen in the start, like with the Starling
Yeah,
pool where
with
she jokes about Tamlin being brushed, right? Lucian's like
yeah.
giggling there. That is close, but that's kind of like the only scene that's ever like that. We
Yeah.
don't really see a lot of them interacting and having fun together. I will also say I think it's funny like he's like the like I'm gonna beat the hell out of him for talking to his high lord like that. Like, because like the joke is that they have a hierarchy because they don't have a hierarchy. Whereas with
Yeah.
Tamlin, that's the serious part, and it's
Yeah.
like it's a very clear contrast.
Yeah.
And I also think that she immediately recognizes it. There's such light in his life, in his eyes. It made him look younger somehow, more mortal. So at odds with the icy rage I see earlier when I spoken, like
Hmm.
she immediately recognizes, like sees through like the true self now.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I just thought it was she can like just tell that he's like super happy. um oh, and also after she I also thought it was interesting that Rhys's happiness kind of also reinforces her decision, because she says, so at odds with the icy rage I'd seen earlier, when I'd woken on that couch and I decided I wasn't returning home, decided that perhaps the spring court might not be my home. um and to me, I think like that's like a new, she hasn't said that yet, she hasn't said the spring court's not
Hmm.
my home. I think this is her realizing it in that moment, that it's not her home. But I think it's interesting that like it's Rhys's happiness that spurs that on. Like
Yeah.
this is the chain of thinking. Also, I don't really know what is that old heaviness. I was running in that old heaviness, calling my way up to a surface that might not ever
Trying
exist,
to
because
find
she's
where
thinking
you're
about
at.
spring court is 137 middle of the page. So she's thinking about spring court might not be my home, and then she says I was drowning in that old heaviness. That's just thinking about spring court is drowning in the old heaviness, or is this something else? For some reason it was confusing to me.
I think that's what it is that I think that it's the feeling that she had at the spring court.
So it's the moment she thinks about it, she's like, yuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a little disappointed when she doesn't want to meet them right away, but he's good. He's like, cool, cool.
Well, I actually think he's not disappointed that she doesn't want to meet him. I think he can sense that she was in that drowning and that she was
Mm,
essentially giving up by checking out. Um, that's what I think. Maybe it's also because he wants her to meet them, but he is the one who tells her to go take a
I
nap
also think
anyway.
that she might just be overwhelmed and exhausted, right? Because when she says, like, I'm drowning in that old heaviness, then if you look a little bit further down, right after Amren comes up and is like, really, you locked us out? She's like, fighting to keep that immense heaviness at bay a little longer, I made for the stairs. Like,
Uh huh.
she's like, I just need a minute. Like, this is a lot. And
Yeah.
I'm a little overwhelmed because she's expecting to, like, be bombarded by big personalities who she's expecting to, like, weep and be gracious to her, or possibly the other. She's like, those are the two options. Either they're gonna be like, oh my god, you're a savior, thank you, and she's gonna have to relive the Under the Mountain, or they're gonna be full night court fucking terrors, or it's just something completely unknown because this whole interaction, she's
Or
like,
like
what the
bitchy
fuck is,
court people type
yeah,
thing.
or she's just gonna be like, what is this? Like, I don't know if I have this in me right now. And like, and she's like, she's exhausted, right? Like, she hasn't slept, she hasn't eaten, like, she's just withering away. So I think it's just, she's like, I didn't want to be stuck in that house up at the mountain, but like, I also don't know that I'm ready for all of this. And right, she's like, and if you open that door and I see fucking, you know, Eastern Germany on the other side of your door where it's all just like bombed to fuck, like, she's like, I don't know if I can do this right now. Like, she's expecting to see a war-torn city behind her.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah.
Although she already talks about kissing Rhys.
Yeah, I noticed that. Although before that, and this continues on, why are Nuala and Cerridwen wincing and flinching constantly? What is that? Are they actually terrified of them, or is
No, I
this
think they're
like?
trying not to laugh.
Do you? Okay, I just can't pick. When you're trying not to laugh, you wince. Like,
That, or maybe there's like there's a healthy dose of respect and fear for Amren. Like, not so much that like, and maybe there's a little bit of that where like, because even the dynamics between these two and Amren throughout the whole series is a little bit like, Amren's like, I don't know how the fuck they were made, because some fae just will shove his cock into anything, even if it's straight shadows, and they were made. And like, these girls are like, she a lot. Maybe she's just a big personality for them. They like the
I think it's
shadows.
specific to Amren. It seems like
Yeah,
they're doing
maybe.
it to anyone talking, but they're responding to Amren
I
directly.
think they're responding to Amren.
Maybe they're from the same world.
Maybe, or it's just like, maybe they're just like, oh, she a lot, and she gets mad real fast, and I'm just
Okay.
ooh. They're like, please don't make me clean up after that bitch again.
Okay. Yes. I could kiss Nuala and Cerridwen for blah blah blah. I could kiss
for
Rhys.
normalcy. This is
Oh
what's
yes.
interesting though, because right,
What is the
that
normalcy?
that I could have sworn that they were subtly gesturing me to hurry up. The normalcy is that she had them under the mountain, that they were a constant under the mountain.
That's
And
what she's talking about.
they're constant when she went for her 2 visits to the night court during her bargain times. But that's
Okay.
normal. So yeah, they're safe. They're normal. They're her people.
Not spring court.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was wondering about the normalcy, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and then we get our intrusive thoughts about kissing Rhys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and let's see. And then I wrote, why are they flinching again?
Well, this one just says, right, that they flinched either from holding in laughter or some vestiges of fear, perhaps both. And then she says, definitely both, as the female snarled.
I think it just
Albeit,
reads as so weird to me.
it is a little weird, but I think it's also maybe that, like, maybe it's not a fear thing, but maybe it's like, we would never, like, the way that they talk to Amren with, like, knowing that she has this other sort of worldly power, that maybe there's just a level of like respect for that, or maybe even a fear of the unknown, or just like they know the potential of power that is there, and they were like, oh my god, we would never call her tiny ancient one. Like, maybe there's a level of respect. It's like if a student were to call a professor by their first name, and we're just like we would never.
Oh, I go by my first name.
No, I know, but we're yes, but like, if they called, like, if a freshman was like, "What's up, Ed?" and we're like, "Ooh, what the fuck?" Like, no way. Like we're not fearful of him, but we would be like, what? Or like when
or
the
like a
TA
court
slept,
lady being
or like the
scandalized.
TA slept in class. Like we're like, he might not get in trouble. We're not afraid of anything, but we're just like, what
You're
the
right. That did make me wince.
yeah, like that's what it was. It was just like the audacity, the level. You're just like, what are you doing? And so maybe that's what it is, where she's just like, maybe it's a respect thing where they're like, they really just call her tiny ancient one? Like, are you crazy? Like, she's
Okay,
the
that's funny. I
second
wasn't
in,
connecting
yeah,
that, like,
she's the second in the court. Like, you answer to her. Like, you know, maybe it's a little bit that. Maybe it's just the like, yeah, being like, ugh, they really did that.
okay.
Like, I would never. It's. I think the wincing is an I would never.
There is a character in Zodiac Academy that makes this make sense.
Sleeps in class.
No. That is flinching at stuff like this. And
Yeah,
so now
it's just,
I can like, okay,
yeah,
I just picture that
it's just,
person. I guess
it's just
they
a
didn't strike
like,
me as super respectful. They just strike me as like they're just their own little things that just do whatever the
well, and
fuck they
they
want or
are,
whatever Rhys tells them to do.
yeah, but they
We
are
don't see them
in
interacting with people a lot.
service. No,
Yeah.
but they are in service, and even if there's a level of casualness and there's a level of respect and there's a level of equality or whatever, they are still in a servitude or servant position.
Although I wouldn't expect. I feel like Alice never flinches at Tamlin.
No, Alice don't give a fuck. Alice does not care.
But also Alice is maybe unique. She seems particularly savvy and
She
interesting.
is particularly savvy, and I feel like Alice is a survivor, and I think that Alice knows when to pick her battles. And I think that that's part of the reason why, like, I could see her calling Tamlin on his bullshit, but I can also see her being like, I'm just gonna kind of keep it, because hers is about self-preservation and keeping the people she loves safe. And
Yeah,
when she
exactly.
speaks up, it's to give Feyre advice and to give her the like, I support you and I'm here for
Yeah.
you and I see you. And she does it in a way that's still safe for her and safe
Yeah,
for her
like the what if
boys.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, even when Feyre goes to leave, when she's just like, I'm going to be long gone before you do what you're going to do. And like, she packs her bags with extra shit because she knows that she's going to take off. Like, she sees all of it. She knows.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's why she's got that grandma energy, yo. She's got that like old lady in the neighborhood who just knows everybody's shit. I like, she just has that vibe where she's just like, she knows all the goings on. She knows everything.
Yeah, she does.
And Cerridwen and Nuala probably know all the goings on too, especially with walking through fucking walls and shit. But I do think that there's a healthy dose of like, I would never talk to her like that. I would never have called her that, because it's just a level of like familiarity or audacity or something that they're just like, ugh, you
Yeah,
know.
that makes sense. The cute, like, we want food, feed us, is there like little funny, the banter.
Mm-hmm.
But also, what is this? I don't get this. I heard the words, heard and processed them, and then they floated into the blackness of my mind. I don't. Is that just her being like, wow, they must seem friendly. I can't engage with it because I'm sad. I couldn't make sense of this.
That I think it's a level of confusion where I think she's expecting more court politics.
Mm.
And so I think she's like, I'm hearing the words and I'm processing them, but I don't know enough about them to be able to really decipher what's actually being said, because no one says what they actually mean in the court.
Okay.
Right? It's that like double speak that she's expecting from the Supreme Court, right? Where everybody says really nice shit or whatever, but they're actually saying something different, or like, and so maybe it's just a little bit of like, I can't even try to figure out what this dynamic is because this makes no sense to me. There's no way that it's this casual. But then she says that, right? Like, who is that? They're the inner circle. And she's like, I wasn't aware that High Lords keep things so casual. And I think she's trying to like push that and being like, is this a show? Is this a play for things? Like, is this how they interact? But really there's this fucking insidious dynamic that's going on, like Tamlin and his friends. And then Nuala's just like, they don't, but Rhys does. Like,
Yeah. I will say also, right before that part, she says, but I wasn't so far gone that I couldn't ask a few basic questions to at least give myself the illusion of caring a bit about my own welfare. Which to me speaks of like, okay, maybe you're just so depressed that you just don't give a fuck.
yeah.
But to me, it also kind of seemed like you feel comfortable and you feel like weirded out that you feel comfortable. So you're like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I'm suicidal because I don't give a fuck. Or,
Yeah.
but she's like mistaking that for like, I just trust Rhys.
Or
and
yeah, or she's
and so,
making
but I'm like, I
excuse.
better ask
Yeah.
some questions.
She's making excuses for her curiosity because she doesn't want to admit that she's curious.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
like, I can, I mean, it's normal to at least ask a few questions. It would be weird if I didn't ask questions. Would really,
Yeah.
what she's saying is, the fuck was that? I want to know that. But she
Uh-huh.
can't
Uh-huh.
admit that she wants to be let in.
Yes. Okay. Their answer is so interesting.
So diplomatic.
Okay. So Feyre goes, how is the city? She remembers the line, it hasn't been breached for 5,000 years. In that means that Amarantha didn't get through. She says, how is the city here? How did it survive? And then Nuala's face tightened and her dark eyes flicked her twin, who slowly rose from a dresser drawer. Please light sisters for me in hand. The High Lord is very powerful, Cerridwen said carefully, and was devoted to his people long before his father's mantle passed to him. What does that mean?
I think it just means that he's always protected Velaris.
To me, it sounds like he did something to help put Velaris' protection in place before he was a High Lord. And because, like, why would they say specifically in reference to this that he's been devoted to his city since before he was a High Lord? Like, what is that? There's something there. Like, maybe
Yeah.
it's just that, he used to be a riffraff and he would hang out with the city people. And like,
He hung out with
and that's why he
Tamlin.
cares about them so much. And I don't know, like, yeah, Tamlin was kind of like that, but I'm just like, there's something that devoted to his people long before his father's mantle. We know he's 500 years old. I think he's sus about like
Well,
whatever the fuck
that
he is. And
or
I just
that
wonder,
or
like, oh, sorry.
well, maybe because right, it hasn't been breached in 500 years, right? And
5,000.
5,000 years.
Yeah, I'm just thinking
Right?
it's
So
older
he's
than
not the
Rhys.
one, yeah, so he's not the one who like hid the city, but maybe it's just that like, he's always been devoted to this place and this is, and so like maybe it's also maybe it's them saying it wasn't just about Amarantha, right? He didn't protect this city because of what happened 50 years ago. He's been devoted to his people for a long time, even before he was High Lord. So maybe they're already trying to set up, like, not an excuse, but the reasoning for it, right? Being like,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't just pick this because it was in the moment and they didn't know. Like, Rhys is devoted to his people and has been for a long time. And I think maybe it's like they're trying to give him, like, give her a reason to not assume the worst
Mm-hmm.
and only see the short-sighted story of Velaris for the last 50 years. I think they're trying to be like, this is a longer story. This is bigger than just what you know about Prithian. And what
Okay.
you know is 50 years.
Fair.
But it
But
is weird.
it's weird. And okay, because especially, later, she when they start talking about it, he says, I don't know, don't ask me who made those words. Someone of my ruthless ancestors. Actually, fuck it, let's just go to it right now. Okay, so later he says in chapter 15, he says
Mhm.
it was my okay. Oh, I jumped all the way to like 17. Okay. So on 144, middle of the page, they're talking about it, and
Mhm.
she insists, she's like, how? And he said, spells and words and my ruthless ancestors who were willing to do anything to preserve a piece of goodness in our wretched world. It says ruthless twice, okay? At the end of that scene, top of 145, she's like still being like out, she's not saying, okay, I sounds good. She's still kind of pissing him off or calling him an asshole basically. And he says, the scene ends with, she says, when I faced him, his blue eyes were as ruthless as the turning winter sea in the distance. So that ruthless with the previous ruthless with
Mhm.
this line about devoted, I was like, is that what he did to become one of those ruthless ancestors and to keep this going long before his father ever gave him his mantle? And is that how he got the most powerful High Lord status? And I just went a little off the deep end. But to me, I'm just
Maybe.
like, maybe okay, if the ruthless was just two separate, but it's in the same scene. And he says ruthless twice about his ancestors,
Yeah.
and then she talks about him as ruthless. And I also think that she has good instincts because she's fucking Faye.
Yeah.
And so that I'm just like, anyway, that was my deep end
Well, and
theory.
I think the ruthless part too, and I don't know if it like comes back to him having done anything, but I think it comes back to this thing where she asks, "So what is there that's worth saving at the cost of everyone else?" And he says everything. And I think that's the ruthlessness of it, that the rest of the world can burn so long as Velaris is safe.
Yeah. No,
And
I
that's
mean,
there's, you know,
that's
it's
fair.
like, yeah, and like, you know, that's like, he's like, and it's still, you know, she's like, what is worth it? And he's like, everything here. This is worth it. And but it is that like, do you save the one person over many? And that's what's ruthless about it, is that he doesn't give Valaris up, and he does save the one thing and lets the rest burn to shit.
Yeah. Yeah. It is
I do think
interesting.
that Cerridwen's answer for when she asks again, um, it's very diplomatic. She's like, it's not for us to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And then Feyre gets defensive and gets all Tamlin about it. And she's like, did he ask you not to? And they're like,
Like,
no.
no.
They're like, the High Lord has made no such demands. Like, he hasn't told us not to tell you things. But what he did to shield this city is not our story to tell. It's his story to tell, not ours. We would be more comfortable if he told you, lest we get anything wrong. And even if they know the story, it's so very diplomatic. That's not our story to tell, and I don't want to get anything wrong. And shuts off the argument. Like,
Does that strike
no.
you as suspicious? Is that why you say that?
No, I just think that it lends to more of a competency between these two, because
Because they were
there's,
witches from Throne of Glass.
yes, but also that they like, you know, it's like, it's not only do they know how to gain information, but they also know how to deter people from seeking information.
Yes, right, because they're like they're spies, kind of.
Yeah.
Or it's at least heavily implied.
And they do it in a way that shuts her down. She can't respond to that. Tell me anyways. I just told you we would get something wrong if we said it. So no, it's not our story. Like, there's no way to, there's no open door for that. It's just very like, and it's very kind. It's not dismissive. It's not saying you don't need to know. It's just, no, he'll tell you when he's ready.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, that I like that.
I do find it interesting that she's in this really interesting space between like grief and anger when it comes to the spring court. Because right, I listened to the crackling
Makes
fire
sense.
and the chirping of the birds in the gardens potted evergreens, so different from the spring sweet melodies I was used to, that I might never hear, right? Sad, or be able to endure again, angry.
Anger. Yeah.
And I love that it's not just a one, it's such a complex sort of healing that she has to do with Tamlin, because there is, it doesn't go straight from like, I love you to I hate you, right?
Yeah.
There's a grief period. There's a sadness over the ending of the relationship. There's a sadness over who she thought she was going to be with him, right? But then there's also this like, you know, and a sadness for the loss of who she thought he would be to her, and also this anger over like, what the fuck were you thinking? And also having a little bit of compassion even within that space, to be like, you know, maybe that's what I needed when I was human. Maybe I fell for the first person who was kind to me, and that's who he wanted to be too. That he knew that, maybe consciously or subconsciously, but that he wanted to be that protector who just let me be a pretty little fucking trophy wife, and I would have been completely content with that. But that's not who I am anymore. And then the way that he went about trying to maintain that version of me was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes total sense for there to be anger and like these are just,
Yeah.
it's a weird situation.
And
It's
she also,
confusing.
and the anger is kind of even pushed, like it, like the anger and sadness, right? Maybe Amarantha had one after all, right? Despair, sadness, and then and some strange new part of me wondered if my never returning might be a fitting punishment for him too, for what he had done to me. Anger again. Like,
Mhm.
so very kind of mixed up together.
I thought it was interesting. I was like, it's almost like she's not saying like, oh, it was worth it what Amarantha did, but in a way, she's like kind of finding a way for it to have meaning. And it's the thing that makes it like, well, at least he's being punished. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
a different way to sort of
Yeah.
recapture that, or to what's
Yeah.
that called? Like, take it to own that again is
Yeah.
like, she's not as mad if it punishes Tamlin accordingly, which
Yeah.
is really interesting. I also note, right before that, they go to shut the windows, and she's like, "No," and they instantly stop. I just was like, to
Mm-hmm.
me, it's a contrast with the spring court where she doesn't get. She
Yeah.
literally couldn't even stick her hand out the window the last time she was
Mm-hmm.
there,
Yeah.
and so this is like she has people listen to her. She has full authority, and like, or
Well, and
she can
even,
go open the
yeah,
curtains.
and even when he's talking about the wards around the house, right? Only the people that I want and now you want can enter the
Mhm.
house. Like, she has an ownership and an agency in this secret city that is super dangerous if anybody else knows about, and he's giving her this freedom to be like, you can go and do whatever the fuck you want.
I will say, I think I would have been like, why are you letting me pick who gets to come in?
Yeah.
Isn't that a little quick? You sure you can trust me? I mean, maybe she's too dead inside to say that stuff, but I would at least think like that's weird.
I mean, he's
It's a little
like, I could
overly
blast.
kind to give me like, there's just you and more, and then me, this girl you've known for 6 months. Like,
I mean, at the same time, though, he could just say something like, as strong as your shields are, I could blast through them and see if you're trying to fucking betray me. So, like, you know,
yeah,
maybe
but
she
I don't
thinks he
know.
can do that anyways. She's like, he wouldn't because he trusts me. But if he didn't trust me, he would probably just fucking root around in my brain for a while and make sure. Like, maybe she's just accepting that he has the ability to, like, I don't know. Maybe she doesn't see it as a trust thing. Maybe she's just.
Yeah. But I
It's
would. I
also a
would be
little,
like, why
yeah.
are you being so. That's a little much. You could just say I could stay here and I can come and go as I please. Not that I
Yeah.
give people authority. That's
To enter your
crazy. It's kind of
house.
like
Yeah.
saying, like, hey, first time you come over, here's a key and all the safe codes.
Yeah.
It's
Or
a
being
bit
like,
much.
yeah, or like you coming to visit my house and then you invited like 6 friends over. I'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah.
yikes.
You get to live there
Okay.
before you can just be like, you get
Yeah,
to
I didn't
decide.
expect to have two human uh guests in my house, one of which is a massive bitch.
Could you imagine like Feyre, who's like, maybe still mated with Rhys, but like who is much more extroverted and talkative, and is like, she's like, you know what, this guy, cool house, and I'm gonna go make some friends, and then she kind of like brings like random like some fucking just, yeah, like random people to his house, and he's like,
Yeah.
the fuck.
And she's like a fuck girl.
No,
If
she
it
goes
was Nesta,
Nesta, but
could
at
you? She
his
goes
house.
Nesta. Yeah, she goes full
Uh-huh.
Nesta. She's just like, I made some friends at the bar.
Yeah, like I
We
mean,
were
he probably
having
just knows
such
that
a
she wouldn't
great
do that.
time. I just put it on your tab, and we figured we'd come back here. He'd be like, uh, yeah.
But anyway,
I
I
think
mean,
he knows her better than that. He's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
she
yeah.
can't handle being
It's
around
still kind of a
fucking.
crazy thing to do.
It is
Like,
an easy thing to do.
but yeah, so
Yeah, because even make yourself at home has limits. He's straight up being like, this is your house. Do whatever you want. Bring whoever
yeah,
you want. She's like, okay.
yeah. Um, okay.
I do
Um,
say that the first thing that she notices, like really notices from the city, is the children laughing, same as Lucian.
okay, yeah, because the first part of 15, she's like talking about her clothes and
Mm-hmm.
remembering. Let's see.
Well, she sees the city, right? And she's like, it's beautiful, it's untouched, there's flower pots, like it's, what it
Mhm.
smells like, and all these things. There's cute marble townhouses, like this is a nice ritzy neighborhood. And then in the distance, children shrieked with laughter. And
Yeah,
she's
it's the
just
thing
like,
that like jolts her. That's like, what?
yeah.
That gets her
Yeah, because
attention
then
and
she
makes her see it.
staggers to the front gate after that. She's like, not only is it like rich, but it's thriving.
There's children here laughing. Um, yeah,
I
I
also want
also
to know who his neighbors are. She's like, I was like, it's like right, no one looked, not one of them looked towards the house, as if they either didn't know or weren't worried that their own High Lord dwelled in one of the many marble townhouses lining either side of the city, each capped with a green copper roof and pale chimneys, blah, 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 right?
Mhm.
I'm like, who are these neighbors? He's just like, hey, Mr. Morris, good morning.
Yeah, I think he is. Like, it is funny.
Yeah.
Oh, also, okay, just in the beginning, I just thought it was funny. Like, she every time I feel like we are in her head, she's sort of accepting a little bit more. Like that's what she opens it. But she's like remembering where she was, and then like now that she's waking up, she goes, "I'd think about what happened at the spring court later, tomorrow, never." She
Mm-hmm.
is like, "Yeah, who
Yeah.
cares?" Like
Yeah.
before, heaviness. Now I'm
Yep.
ready to see some fucking city.
Yeah.
Also, I don't understand this outfit. I don't think it's that important. But I will tell you, this sounds like a horrific, stupid ass outfit. Like I'm just picturing like the ugliest brown pants, blue jacket, cream top. It doesn't make sense. I basically skim that shit and just picture her however I want to picture her,
Yeah.
with the vague colors there,
Yeah.
sort of.
She's
But
got she's got some she's got some
suede.
brown she's got brown leggings on with some navy New Balances and a a cashmere knit sweater and a weird pale blue pea coat.
It just seems like so much going on.
And she's got her cutesy little gloves in her pocket.
That's fine. That's like, someone's like your fingies are gonna get cold.
Those
Let's
are
help you
those
out.
are okay, they're knitted gloves that match my shoes. They are navy blue gloves, navy blue shoes, powder blue jacket, and brown pants.
Sounds ugly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I can't picture it in a way that sounds cute.
Nope, they're trying to match her to his eyes. Or they're like, she has gray blue eyes. She'll look great in blue. Make it all blue.
I don't really get why we put outfit choices in. I guess people like it. I'm
Yeah.
just a little different. Anyway. Oh,
After she
okay.
sees all this beautiful stuff, her fingers curl into fists. She's pissed.
Um, oh yeah. Wait. I remember the curling into fist, but is that at the end of?
It's on the top of 143. So it's after she
Yeah.
sees the city, hears the kids laughing, staggers to the front gate, sees looks down, sees the Sidra, sees the city, right? There's no monsters, no darkness, no hint of fear or despair, untouched. And then, even during the height of her dominance over Prithian, whatever Rhys had done, whatever he'd sold or bartered, Amarantha truly had not touched this place. The rest of Prithian had been shredded, then left to bleed out over the course of 50 years, and yet Velaris, and then her fingers curl into her fist.
Yeah.
And then she sensed something looming,
Oh, yeah,
and
she
that's when
senses
she
the
looked,
mountains, and that
and then
distracts her.
she, and she senses the mountains twice, right? I sensed it looming. She tells you about the mountains. They're somehow sleeping giants, somehow alive and awake. As if in answer, that undulating, slithering power slid along my bones like a cat brushing against my legs for attention. Again, cat symbolism every time we talk about that mountain.
Oh.
Because when Nesta is in the library that's underneath the House of Wind,
Mm.
there's all these feelings of like, there's a breeze like cats going in between her legs. And I keep thinking about the fucking tour in the Southern Continent and Throat of Glass.
And Adis.
Who?
Adis is a cat.
Oh yeah, Adis is a cat. Sorry, I have kind of Control Alt deleted most of Crescent City, so I'm glad I'm doing a reread soon.
Uh-huh. Especially for theories.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, those mountains. I was wondering if those mountains were she was sensing it because she's got High Lord power and those called to High Lords. For some other reason that's in her blood originally before she was made, when she
Yeah,
was just normal Fae.
I think mountains are more important than we know. I think that
Yeah.
mountains are alive.
But we know
Mountains
they're
have
thin places. We know they're sacred. We know there's a
yeah.
lot of things with them.
wars have been fought on top, right? Thea's war was fought on the top of Ramiel, right? Um, it's basically what it says in the end of Silver Flame, right? The Great War of the Queen was fought here. Her general held the line.
Yeah.
Um, and there's that sacred stone on the top. All of these mountains are bald, like the snow doesn't touch them. Like there's some shit. All of them
Yeah.
have palaces built underneath them. Even Eris is like, have you never wondered why there's palaces built underneath the two of the three sacred mountains in our world? And she's like, well, I don't think that because the prison and Ramiel, and then the mountain in the center are the three sacred mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, I wouldn't call the prison a palace. And he's like, still, that's what it is. Like it's carved out underneath the thing. Because says Amarantha didn't create he was like, she didn't gut the mountain. Like some ancient beast or being carved that out a long time ago and then
Yeah.
made it look like Hewn City. But yeah, I don't know.
I did think it was interesting. Okay, this is a little bit. Maybe this is nothing. It says when Rhys sees her outfit, he goes, "There's those two certainly like to fuss," which I just thought was like, "Oh, it's that he's just being chummy or whatever." But then he
Mm-hmm.
says, "Though something about it was strained." What does that mean?
Because
Why
she
is
looks like
he? Why is
shit.
he? Okay, he doesn't like his outfit.
She looks like shit. No, I'm not talking about the outfit. I mean, she looks like shit. When she pops into his brain, Mate Bondi, Aelin, Rowan style in a little bit, and she sees herself through his eyes, she's like, I didn't realize how fucked up I look. I've got dark circles under my eyes. My
Mm-hmm.
face is angular. I look like I've been starving. And then she even uses Rhys's words. I look like rage and grief and despair have been eating me alive.
Okay, so he's just like grimacing at her appearance.
He's like, baby girl, you look fucked up. Or maybe
Even though
he's
he's
still
talking about how
mad.
they fixed her up.
Well, he's probably trying to make her feel better, right? They sure like to fuss. But and maybe it's just the straining that he's angry, right? It's like I went and picked like it's like a reminder of all the shit that she had to deal with Tamlin, that he was oppressive and he was holding her captive and he was not giving her any outlets to work through her shit. And so maybe that's what's strained about it, is that like even with their fussing, even with them putting on seemingly nice clothes and bundling her up and or maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's not that fucking cold outside. She's just 60 pounds because she's starving, so they had to bundle her ass up. And so maybe that's why he's like, they certainly like to fuss. Like they put gloves in there, babe. Like it's 65 degrees outside.
Okay. That's fine. I was just like, what is that? But maybe it's nothing. I don't know. I that's the kind of shit I'm like, what? Also, I thought it was funny how right before she sees the city, she sees it as this like countdown. Like every step towards that bright threshold was both an eternity and an invitation.
He
Um,
could also just be really nervous about showing her Velaris.
yeah, I think that's probably what it is too.
That like
Um,
he's like, she's gonna fucking hate me for this right now.
Fair. Yeah. Um, but I do think it's still if her instinct is she just it instinctually loves it and is like, and maybe that's even what's frustrating to her. Is she's like, this is
Yeah.
awesome, and then she's like, but fuck. Um,
She is very Nesta in this chapter, by the way. This like she's hurting and so she's just lashing out,
mhm.
right? When she's like, how? And he says luck. She's like, yes, how lucky for you that the rest
Mhm.
of Prithian was ravaged while your city remained safe.
Although I do think it's like, I wrote for that. I wrote they spar harshly but easily.
Yeah.
Like they sort of like it speaks to like she's not afraid of him. It speaks to like, she's gonna question him on his shit and that, but yeah, it does give
Well, and she
Nesta
would never
and
say, yeah, and to go with what you're saying is like she's been in Velaris for 5 minutes and she's already pushing back against this.
yeah.
She was in Spring Court for months and she pushed back twice.
Well, that we know of. She may have, but yeah. It
Sure,
definitely
but
gives
like,
the impression that she does not push back against Tamlin, and that if she
yeah,
was, she would be shut down immediately. And she has those instincts throughout these chapters as well, where she's like, "I didn't want to ask because I probably would be told no."
yeah,
And even sometimes Rhys does say like, "Conversation's not for now," but she's like, she sees it as
But
like
yeah,
Tamlin like when it's not really.
yeah, and that's what I expect. That's what I wrote, is that she keeps comparing to Tamlin, right? Because she's
Yeah,
like, when Amarantha
constantly.
came, I had to make some very hard decisions very quickly. And she rolls her eyes, twists away, right? And she's like, I'm assuming you won't tell me about it. Like,
Where
already
is that
expecting.
exactly?
On page 144, kind of
Oh,
a little bit further than halfway down.
I'm assuming you
I rolled
won't.
my eyes, twisting away to scan the rolling steep hills, the sea far beyond. I'm assuming you won't tell me about it, but I had to know how he managed to save this slice of peace and beauty. Now is not the time for that conversation. She's like, fine, I've heard that sort of thing 1,000 times before at the spring court anyways. It wasn't worth dredging up the effort to push about it. And so, like, yeah.
I wrote she
But
assumes he's
but
like Tamlin under the hood.
but the difference is that she stops even asking in the spring court.
Mm-hmm.
She asks and says, I have to know how he did this. She doesn't have the energy to fight it right now, but she's going to keep asking. Where in the
She hasn't
spring court,
lost hope that same way.
yeah. There was completely, she's like, there's no use to even ask in the spring court because Tamlin's going to say no.
Mm-hmm. Why do we think they're called palaces?
I don't know.
It's just a random fantasy thing. To me, we were talking about the palaces and mountains and all this stuff, and I'm just like,
It gets
what?
confusing sometimes to be like, oh, the palaces are also just shopping quarters.
That's why I'm like, maybe Velaris was like this city where some powerful people from another world came and plopped down and built themselves 4 little palaces to live in, and then over time that just became fucking
Yeah.
a
I
shopping
mean,
center.
it does feel very Terracin, especially with the theaters, and that like Velaris is known for the art. Yeah, but I don't know. I think in all honesty, I think it's a poor choice for writing to call them palaces, because then I think it gets confusing on the House of Wind and the Moonstone Palace and the Night Courts and the like. It's like you could have said it. You could have called it something else that still had the sort of feeling of opulence and not use the word palace.
That's why I'm like hoping it was an intentional choice, because it has something to do
Yeah,
with the history of Velaris and that these were
yeah,
actual palaces before and not just like we're doing an original fantasy thing. Yay.
yeah. She is again expecting spring court reactions when she's expecting like walking around today was enough, introducing myself and enduring gawking and tears and judgment. Like she won't go into the stores because she's worried that people are gonna like make a fuss of it.
Well,
um
I also thought that like in in Spring Court, Tamlin wants her to doesn't want her to do things and wants her to do other things, all for the aesthetics, because he's worried about how she will be perceived. And in
mm-hmm.
reality, she's like very seldomly perceived by anyone in Spring Court. Whereas
Yeah,
here, she's like out in the open, being perceived. And Rhys doesn't give a fuck. It's just like kind of an interesting flipping, because
yeah,
Tamlin's all paranoid over like 2 people who are gonna see her. Rhys is like has a bunch
yeah,
of people there and is like doesn't give a shit. And it's an interesting contrast. And even I will say, before we talked about like why are the people so afraid of Tamlin when they go and they're like the debt is paid, the villagers in like the like chapters ago when she goes to try and fix the village with Lucian and the villagers are weird, but like here when talking about Rhys just like kind of milling about and people talking to him, I feel like that is why we see that scene with the villagers, because we actually see that's how Tamlin's people act, and now this is how Rhys's people act. It is interesting because we were on
yeah,
one about like why are they acting like this? What's up with this? Maybe it is just to serve as a contrast, although I like our theories too. But
yeah, yeah.
I wrote he lets her be a loner.
I really do wish that we would get a little bit more. You know what this reminds me of actually
What?
is the market in Crescent City, especially with
Oh yeah,
the Palace of Bone and Salt.
it's like something similar, right? The flesh
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then
meat
the
market.
Palace of Hoof and Leaf, right? That like, I mean, I get it, whatever, but especially the Palace of Bone and Salt I circled because remember, like, at some point, Bryce goes in to buy like the salts because
Oh
they're
yeah,
magic amplifiers and stuff like that. So I was just like, oh, that's interesting. But yeah, it has a lot of like the I can't remember her name, the dragon lady.
Viper Queen.
Yeah, the Viper Queen, has kind of her vibe to like if Velaris ended up falling to mafia, It would be the Viper Queen and her market.
And maybe it does.
And maybe it does.
Terrace into Velaris to Crescent City.
Yeah.
Damn.
Also, did you see her description of her dad?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck is this? So many spices and scents familiar and forgotten from those precious years when I had known the comfort of an invincible father and bottomless wealth. Invincible father?
I said the exact same thing. Like, what the fuck is that?
What? He's mortal. What do you mean invincible? Like, I get it. Like, oh, like your dad is your hero and he can, he's the protector. And like, I get, but like, that's a fucking choice to say invincible father.
Now, I will say,
especially because at some point, going from not being able, right? Nesta talks about how her and Elaine had to put the door back on after Tamlin fucked up the door because her dad couldn't bear weight on his leg.
Yeah.
And was just giving poor advice on how to hang a door. And then all of a sudden he gets his wealth back. And like, maybe wealth can buy you medical care in Prithian, right? We live in the United States. I get that, right? Right? Steve Jobs had like 17 kidneys available to him because he got money. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But you go from not being able to bear weight to sailing across the fucking continent and then walking your happy ass into the continent to go meet with Koshe? To then walk back and bust your ass on a ship again?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Sus.
Yeah. He is so sus. Because I think it's a weird thing. Like, I will say, I have a dad who I could totally see. I would say something like this because he has got that big personality.
Yeah.
It's like what you would say, like, kind of like, like invincible, but he's obviously not. But it's
and
not
Topher
the
probably
dad
would
she's had for a long time.
Yeah. And I get it. She's recalling the old dad, right? The one that she was 8.
Yeah.
My daughter probably thinks that, Topher is invincible, right? He can lift her up with one hand. That's fucking Superman level shit, right? It's like he could lift me over his head, right? Like, ooh, daddy can pick up mommy. That's, craziness. I get it, but still it's from a reader perspective where that choices go into the words that the author chooses. That's an interesting fucking choice.
Also because she's now Fae and she gets what real invincibility is like.
Yeah.
She should have, I don't know, it's a weird choice. I was like, what the fuck?
I also thought that this is one of those moments that she really sees the difference between Spring Court and Night Court, specifically Tamlin versus Rhys. Because when she says, him? Yes. And, right, so, no one avoided him, no one whispered about him or spat at him or stroked him as they walked, as they had under the mountain, right? So people here don't treat him like they did under the mountain. And rather, and this is even more to like the antithesis of Tamlin, rather, the people that spotted him offered warm, broad smiles. Some approached, gripping his hand to welcome him back. He knew each of them by name, and they addressed him by his. And I wrote, does Tamlin know even one name of someone in his court? And 2, would anybody in his court ever refer to him as Tamlin?
No.
If he walked through a village, it would be my high lord. My high lord. Hello, high lord.
Welcome. The dad is paid.
Yeah, right? But like, they're just like, what up, Rhys? Nice to have you home, buddy. And she's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Then we see the artist quarter, and she has her little freak out, right? She's like, I can't. I'm interested. She thinks about it longer than anything else.
Yeah.
But she's like, yep, I'm not there for it. And then she's also noticing the diversity as well, right? All she sees in Spring Court is high fae. And then when she does see lesser fae, they're all dangerous, right? The Naga, the and even the water race or water nymphs that she sees, there's still a level of like other and separateness and danger. And here's like high fae and various lesser faes had I'd never encountered and didn't know the names of wandered the streets. It
Mm-hmm.
was the latter that I noticed more than the others, some long-limbed, hairless, and glowing as if an inner moon dwelled beneath their night's dark skin, some covered in opulent scales that shifted color with each graceful step of their clawed, webbed feet, some elegant, wild puzzles of horns and hoofs and striped fur. Some were bundled, and so like already she's like there's a lot of diversity here, and they're just walking the streets together, and there doesn't seem to be this like high fae lesser fae dichotomy or sort of hierarchy. And then this one is a really big one too.
Mm-hmm.
Others strode about in nothing but their scales and fur and talons and didn't seem to think twice about it. Neither did anyone else. Complete opposite from when the water wraith comes in and Lucian gives a
People are
sour face.
scowling. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and everyone is like, she's just gonna take your money and buy crack with it, and she can't even put clothes on to come here. And literally, like, she's like, these people are walking around in also nude, and nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, they don't give a shit, and it is
This
like that
is
world that Tarquin wants. You know, it's already
it's
there.
also almost like the better world that her father told her to
Totally.
go find.
Or that Aelin made.
Yes,
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Also, over and over again, she's like, I don't care if my shields are down.
Yeah.
Over and
It's
over.
a weird,
She
like,
doesn't she doesn't
don't care about
she
life,
doesn't
but also, you know.
she's like, I don't care if he knows all my thoughts.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that is depression and how much of that is
Yeah.
trust. That she just doesn't
Well, and
recognize yet.
then it's probably a good thing that they're down though, because then she has this really fucked up thought where she's like, I want to smash all these goddamn windows. And he's like, easy.
Yeah. Calmer tits.
Could you imagine they're just like walking and then she's just like, because it says I whipped my head to him and my breathing a little bit jagged. She's just like, he's like, calm down. My people are blameless. And immediately though, she's like, oh, right.
Yeah, she got that high lady shit.
That, or he fucking calmed her down just by talking to her. But like
That's
that
true.
he can do that. He's like, that easily my rage vanished as if slipped on a rung of a ladder. It had been steady it had been steadily climbing inside of me and splattered on the pale stone street. Sorry, that was horrible reading. But anyways, just like, and that easily it vanished. Like he says, too easy. My people are blameless. And she's like, cool, not mad. And she's like, you're right, you're right.
But then she's
And then
tired from the being
she's tired.
angry.
She's yeah.
It's like when you get really mad and you're like, now I'm tired.
And then immediately he's like, we'll go for another walk tomorrow night. You need to see it at night. So like again, he's like, I'm gonna hang out with you again tomorrow. Don't trip. We got time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I do appreciate that he like wants full transparency for her to choose to work with him, right? Like who's going to be at this dinner? And he says, my inner circle. I want you to meet them before you decide if if this is a place you'd like to stay, if you'd like to work with me and thus work with them. More you've met, but the other three. And then like, that's a kindness, right? Like Tamlin would have been like, I've offered you a job. You want to work with me? Don't ask questions. Like I'm gonna tell you what to do. It's need to know. And here he is being like, no, I want you to meet the people and not even to just decide if she wants to work with them, but literally like if this is a place that you would like to stay.
Yeah.
Like that's yeah. And then we get the hierarchy. And she's surprised that his second and third are women.
Because Tamlin would never.
Well, and even I guess there's mortal queens that she doesn't quite know about yet. But yeah, like women don't have power in Prithian, right? Like
yeah. Well, as she thinks about with Nesta and Elaine, they're gonna have power through marriage and money and stuff. Really interesting, like, very different women have job. Very different.
women have authority.
Yeah. And I also thought it was interesting how everyone's always upset that she ruined Rhys's house, but they burned it down apparently.
Yeah, right.
Like, the thing about, like, "You painted all over his 500-year-old house?" And, like, "No, it's been burned down a couple times."
At least
"You just burn it
once.
down
I
again."
also the one thing that Topher and I love is the repeating of like how Cassian destroyed one building in the spring in the summer court. And he's like, it was one building, like you destroyed a building. And then when we finally get a Cassian POV, he was like, and just because I happened to slightly destroy one teeny tiny little building. Jover's like, I love the different points of views from this because it's like you brought a building down. He's like, it's fine. And then like his is like, it's a teeny tiny little shack, and it's like, probably like half a fucking palace tower or some shit that he brought down. But yeah,
Probably.
anyways.
It's funny. Um, and, yeah, I got more, I wrote, "I
I
wanna know
do
how to measure power," because we've already talked it to death.
also, right, her shields are possibly still down, right?
Huh.
And so he's hearing, I mean, they're definitely down because he hears what she thinks. And like, she's like, the most powerful High Lord in history. In the countless millennia they had existed here in Prithian, Rhys, with his smirking and sarcasm and bedroom eyes, and he's probably like, mm-hmm. And Amren was worse, older than 5,000 years. And then she says, I waited for the fear to hit, waited for my body to shriek to find a way to get out of this dinner, but nothing, right? And then she chalks it up to, well, maybe it'd be a mercy to be ended. But I think already what we're seeing there is like she's not afraid of these people. There's a safety here. And she's
Yeah.
and like her body is already knowing. It's like, your body keeps score. Like her body is already recognizing that these people are not a threat to her. And
Yeah.
granted, then she like has this like super fucked up thought, and then he immediately is like grabs her face and is like, don't you ever think that, not for one damn minute. And this is him responding to the mate bond, right? She just is like, I should be dead. And his like, you know,
Mhm.
uh, you know, asshole overbearing Faye bullshit that all the girls
Territorial
joke
phase
about.
bastard.
Yeah, all that kicks in. And then the bond between us went taut, and my lingering mental shields collapsed. And for a heartbeat, just as it happened under the mountain, I flashed from my body to his, from my eyes to his own. And I was like, that's exactly how Aelin and Rowan's first mate bond moment happens, is that she's
Yeah.
crouching down and she's hiding the amulet under this floorboard in her closet. And she snaps and she sees herself doing it through Rowan and feels him. And she like turns to him and she's like, what the fuck just happened? Basically. And then she starts questioning, like, how does he keep all of that power in him and blah, 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 whatever else. But yeah.
Mhm.
And then when she sees her face, right, my face was gaunt, my cheekbones sharp, my blue gray eyes dull and smudged with purple beneath. The full lips, my father's mouth, were wan, and my collarbone jutted out of the thick, full neckline of my sweater. I looked as if, and these are Rhys's exact words, as if rage and grief and despair had eaten me alive.
Mhm.
As if I again starved, not for food, but from joy and life.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And then she immediately goes, was that a trick? And he says no. And then he asks her how she got through his shields. Like he knows that was mate bond shit. And so I'm like, is he diverting right now, being like, oh, how'd you do that? That's a power thing. Like,
Maybe well, no.
or I mean, maybe he just doesn't know that that's a mate bond thing. It's not like
Yeah.
he's had
Well,
another
and
a mate before.
it could be a mate bond thing, and or I mean, it's not very often that two Daematis are mated, So it could
Yeah.
actually be a Daemati thing. He probably hasn't met a lot of Daematis that he trusts either. And
But
also she
right,
does
that
use
but that
power.
bond went taut between us. She felt the bond go taut.
Yeah, true.
And so
Yeah.
I feel like there might be a little bit of deflecting here where he's like, oh, like I don't want her to know so much that she, because right,
Well, but
she's
I
like,
do
was
think
that a
there's the groundwork for why she's able to trick Tarquin's power.
yeah,
This is
and
why,
and
because he makes this reasoning right here.
yeah, he does. Well, and she does too, right? Or yeah, because he does. This
So
makes
it
a bit
must
of
have
sense,
some
of
resonance
course.
with him too.
Yeah, if the power came from me, if my own shield somehow mistook you for me and let you slip past it, fascinating. That he's thinking of the book.
You think he's already thinking of the book?
Yes, because he
Oh.
was already thinking of the book when he's asking her to work for him. He's like, you have a skill set that
Well,
I
yeah,
need.
but like you think he's right then thinking maybe I can have her
Yes.
trick Tarquin's
Yes.
power. I don't know.
Yes.
I think that's a lot of steps, but maybe. He's very smart. He's the most powerful High Lord.
I
Whatever that
do
means.
love I do love this comment about being in Lucian's head though. It's kind of my favorite thought
Yeah.
ever.
What a
Where he's like
miserable place to be.
and she's like, do not go into my head, bitch. You don't care that your shield is down. And then he reminds you, your shield is down. You might as well have been shouting his name at me.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a miserable place to be. He's like, ugh.
And I do think, by the way, the reason that they probably do flip like that is probably because Rhys looking at her like and feeling such strong emotions in that moment probably put his shield down,
Yeah.
um, and just didn't. He let her in, kind of. I don't
I think it
think.
is also a little bit of a foreshadow for the reader too, because if you've read Throne of Glass first and you know that that happens to Aelin and Rowan, then you could start guessing as a reader, are they mates?
Yeah. Although now, having read more romantasy, I probably would already guess
Oh,
it.
well, for sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think it's because it's a lot of people's starter series that you don't
I'm
guess it.
I'm really glad that I didn't know about the mate trope when I read these. It would have completely ruined that first read for me.
I would
I'm
have been
so
like,
glad. I've been like,
who
well, here we
cares?
are again, another fucking mate bond. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is better that way.
Also, I did a little um uh etymology notation here on the word
Okay.
Daemati, by the way.
Oh,
So Daemati reminds me of the word daemon, which is from the Greek,
yes.
which means like spirit. It's where we get the word for demon because Christianity takes over and makes everything bad and evil because
Mm-hmm.
that's what Christianity does to any other tradition. But Daemati,
Mm-hmm.
if it's influenced by Greek language, which I do not know that it is, but I am assuming,
Probably.
daemon is a lesser spirit, right? So it's not full divine. It's like these lesser sort of spirits or influences, and it comes from the Greek word to divide. They have influence over fate and personality traces and human behaviors, and they're the go between the gods and humans. So they're the ones who sort of push people in the direction to fulfill their fate, right?
And sorry,
And
that is the actual word Daemati, or sorry, what word
no,
is that?
that's the word daemon.
Daemon. Oh,
D
okay, okay.
yeah,
Because
daemon.
I've heard it as
D
as spirit.
Yeah. And so it's sort of this like this essence that like when you have a gut feeling or when you like your intuition, like those sorts of things were sort of assumed.
Probably seen as magical.
Yeah, or this like pull of this spirit, right? When you walk into a place, you're like the vibe is off, or I don't like I'm getting, like when the hair on the back of your neck stands up because you like run into
Ghosts.
a creepy guy kind of a thing, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
no, these are the spirits kind of pushing you into one way or another, but they also have the ability to kind of tailor human behavior to push them, and they are both good and evil, right? They're not one or the other. They can do things for good and push you into the right direction, or they can trip people up and be
Mm-hmm.
dicks, right? And so it has this sort of apathetic kind of position. Then I looked up Madi and Ati and Ti as suffixes within the
Mm-hmm.
Greek because I wasn't sure where that comes from. But Mati is a suffix in the Greek, and it's correlated with the evil eye. It literally means eye,
Mm.
and it's correlated with the evil eye. And so, for people who don't know what the evil eye, it's in a lot of traditions, and it wards off evil, right? And so, oftentimes, it's in the form of like the bracelets that have like the little blue eye on them. And in Greek mythology, at the bottom, or not Greek mythology, in Greek society, bottoms of cups and plates would have like an eye or like a picture of like Medusa or something on it. And it
Mm-hmm.
would be so like when you're lifting and you can't look at the world around you and evil can approach you, that there would be an eye to stop the evil, right? You would wear it, kind of in places where if evil could jump on you, evil can't approach you if it's being seen. So,
Mm.
but it's also interesting that there's an eye on her bargain tattoo.
Yeah.
And so I just thought it was really kind of cool correlation between the possibilities. Again, I don't know if that's where this influence comes from, but that would be my assumption is that she's pulling from some Greek mythology and some Greek words. If
I
nothing
think
else,
so.
it's a fun coincidence.
It is. I like it.
This is also one of the words that, and this doesn't need to be on here, but this is one of the words that get Socrates in trouble
Yeah,
because he
that's how I
talks
know
about,
it. That's the only reason I
and
know it.
because he talks about that spirit that guides him. He
Yeah,
talks
that's
about
right.
these daemons that sort of guide him, and really what he's talking about is his intuition
Conscious.
and consciousness, right?
Jiminy
And
Cricket.
like, yeah, yeah, but like also having this, like, having a conscience and trying to, like, do those sorts of things, the things that we kind of see as is like
That would
thoughts.
totally
And
seem like magic. I love that.
well, and in right, saying that he follows that versus the gods, right? Because if you
Yes.
start to look at it in the sense of
The
like, these are
first
these little,
atheist.
yeah, these
For
are
sure.
these little spirits, right? And he's saying like, no, this isn't a god thing. This is like, it's a within me thing. It's a thought in with me. And like, people are like, bro, that is some heretic speak right there. So anyways, that's
Hmm.
what I know about that.
Yeah.
Um,
I did throw out, what if Ianthe is Daemati and that's how she wields Tamlin? But we would definitely have found out if she was
yeah.
Daemati and stuff. But part of me, like the way that they said a more powerful one could make you their unwitting slave. The idea
Hmm.
being that they could get in your mind and you wouldn't know that they're in your mind and they would just make you do things and you would think that you chose to do those things. Um, and
I think
that
that that's,
would be a
but I do
terrible way out for Tamlin but I could see is
I do
yeah.
think that that's some foreshadowing for book 3, though, because the twins from Hybern are Daemati.
Yeah.
And so, one, I think it's a little bit of like, she's aware of this and that allows her to be on her guard, but
Hmm.
also they do kind of get her to do some shit and they get some other people to do some shit. And so, like, even with her shields around everybody in Spring Court against them, he's like, a powerful Daemati can still do a lot of fucking damage.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's interesting. But I don't think he
And
ended.
then
It's just the way
and
they talk about
also,
them controlling.
yeah, but I think it's definitely a foreshadowing for book 3 because, right, I take it that in a potential war with Hybern, the king's armies wouldn't even know how to break. So like, we're talking about Daemati and the power of a powerful Daemati, and then immediately we talked about a war with Hybern.
Hmm.
And so I think it's foreshadowing for what we're going to experience there. I wrote that she's a lot like Nesta here, right? Where she says, so
Yeah.
what? You're pampered people, those who can't shield their minds, they get the protection and don't have to fight like the rest of us. And she's like, I didn't let him answer. I just increased my pace, a cheap shot and childish. But inside I had become like that distant sea, relentlessly churning, tossing about by squalls that tore away any sense of where the surface might be. And so I think she's like, that's why, she, they're two sides of the same coin, right? She
Yes.
feels angry and lonely and confused, and so she lashes out. Now Nesta's way better about it as far as her ability to do that, right? She could fucking cut real deep, but Feyre's got some of that in her too.
A lot of talent we all want so much of. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Elaine's got it a little bit too, but Elaine's a little more straightforward. But when Elaine speaks up,
We'll
it's like,
see.
yeah.
Um
But Elaine does speak up at some point, because at some point they say something to her and she's just like, all you have ever talked about is how my trauma fucked you guys up.
yeah, no, she's got some
And you're
heat and I
like,
am excited to get
mm-hmm.
in her head a little bit, although I'm also nervous,
I
but
do love when Nesta tells her to fuck off and Elaine just starts cracking up because she's like, you have never spoken to me like this. What is wrong with you, you crazy bitch? Come on. Like, and it's
yeah.
like, breaks down the, like, she's like, oh, you're fine. We're fine. We're great. Come on, let's go open up presents.
I also say she does hate herself for doing that though. She's talking about like Amarantha, I could survive Amarantha, I could survive leaving Tamlin, but I can't survive being this
Yeah.
empty-hearted, cold person who's
But
mean.
I think that that's the difference, though, between her and Nesta being the same side of or different sides of the same coin, right? Where she lashes out and she's empty and she's cold, she hates it, right? And like
Yeah.
Nesta does too, at
I think
some
Nesta does
extent.
too. She just is
She
better at
does,
being delusional.
yes, but yes, but I feel like this is not even that harsh of a comment compared to the things that Nesta says, and
Hmm.
already she regrets it and feels bad about it. Where like Nesta,
Yeah.
it takes her a while to really feel remorse over the things that she says.
I think Nesta has so much more rage than Feyre ever does. I think
Yeah.
Feyre, like, you know, yeah, she doesn't have like a that like Nesta holds a grudge type,
Yeah.
whereas I think it's not really
Nesta
Feyre's
also has
instinct.
Nesta also has a longer self-loathing stage than Feyre, because Feyre starts self-loathing,
Way.
like she starts self-loathing when she kills the fairies, right? When she kills the fae,
Well, I
which
don't
in
know
all
if that's
reality
self
is like,
low. Oh yeah, I guess it is. I was
yeah,
like,
she starts
it's a
to
normal
hate herself a
reaction.
little bit. She hates herself a little bit. And maybe not as much, and maybe even just the extent of it, but even just the duration of it, right?
Mhm.
Feyre has been experiencing self-loathing for what, 6 months. Nesta has always self-loathed.
Yeah.
Her mother
Mhm.
like instilled that in her as a kid. So like,
Yeah.
it's just it's a longer,
Well, and I also
just
think
she's
like Feyre had like this direct trauma where she was forced to do this thing. It wasn't really like her will to do that. She just had to, and then she has to deal with the consequences. Nesta is not her thing that she has a lot of trauma around, like her dad's death and stuff, and whatever else. I feel like it's less like I was made to do this, and more like all this stuff has happened because I'm not a good person. It's like
yeah,
way more complex, and like Feyre is like bad thing happened to me, things I can't get out of it, and then like there is a bunch of mental stuff with that too. But Nesta I think is much more like it's like a very complex web of
yeah.
things that she has to untangle
Well,
because that
and
self-loathing did start so long ago, and also because there's no direct like this is your fault, this is their fault. It's like,
yeah.
oh, this is
Well,
interconnected.
and to some extent, right, when Feyre rises to a challenge, right? Her family is starving. She goes to hunt. So she rises to these challenges and she kind of meets them. And to some extent, even with the things that she doesn't really want to happen to her under the mountain, she still, to some aspect, kind of consents to engage in it because she went under the mountain. She knew it was going to be fucked up. Now, did she know it was going to be as fucked up as it was? No. Did she want to do the things that happened? No. And I'm not trying to victim blame, but there's a little bit of ownership in the decision to face that fucked up thing. Where Nesta
Yes.
didn't have that, right? From the moment she's born, her mother is creating her. And
Yeah.
then and then when she has a chance to rise to challenges, she doesn't do it, right? She doesn't go and help her family because she's holding a grudge. She doesn't save her dad because she's holding a grudge. She doesn't, she feels like a failure over and over again. And then going into the cauldron, she has no consent to that at all. It's not even
Yeah.
like she was like, "Oh, I'm going to go to Prithian and what happens is what happens and I'll deal with the consequences." There's no, like, things happen to her, and when she does feel like there could have been a moment for her to rise to those challenges, she feels like she failed. Where Feyre, she doesn't have that same sort of aspect of it. She's like, I survived this, I survived this, I survived this. I don't know if I'm going to survive this last thing. And she feels bad about this. But Nesta's like, I have failed everything, right?
Yeah.
Feyre still has 3 points to say that she succeeded, that she survived.
Yeah.
Nesta
There's a lot
doesn't
of
have
pride
that.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. And Nesta doesn't have any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um very interesting. Yeah. We're gonna see a lot of probably some interesting things with Elaine with that too.
I love that she's like, no, I'm not going to fly, but then she's also a little bit interested in flying for sure.
Yeah. I mean, because we know that she
It's
does end up loving flying, so
mhm.
I was like, she's got this deep aversion. I feel like it proves that she's doesn't know what she likes because she doesn't know who she is, or she's
Mhm.
just like that sounds kind of fun. I can't like this. Like
Yeah.
she just doesn't want to admit, or well, I think it's more that she doesn't know what she doesn't like. She's just afraid.
Well, and I think she does feel a little guilty about finding joy or finding things interesting and being
Definitely.
curious in Rhys and in the Night Court and the Inner Circle when she literally just left the Spring Court, right? Like,
Yeah.
she
Like
feels a
literally
little
like
like,
30
oh,
hours ago.
yeah. She's like, I just left my fiance and now I'm gonna go flying with this dude. That seems a little fucking slutty.
Hmm. Yeah. And
And already again anticipating that everything in the Night Court is going to be like Spring Court when she, right, that
talking about her dress.
yeah, if the Inner Circle was anything like Tamlin's court, better to wear the formal attire. And then I do love when she's like, the wind's gonna rip this gown right off, and his grin just becomes super feline, and she's like, I'll fucking take this day. Like, already there's flirtation. She's like,
Hmm.
it's gonna rip the dress right off of me. And he's like, yeah, I'm okay with that. She's like, ugh, I can't like this right. I'm going to take the stairs.
Yeah. Also, right before that, don't ask me why or who did it. Who did this warding of this of the
Yeah.
House of Wind? Because I'm like, it's not, those words are not keyed to his blood. They won't let him in. It's almost like he's not supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. They guess they just stop him from winnowing, but something the most powerful High Lord can't fix a little ward. He can strip Tamlin's in a second with half a thought,
yeah,
but he can't fix this one of his
he
own
can't,
house.
and he can't get Helion to do it, who's the High Lord
Yeah,
known for building
there's
and
some shit
destroying
there,
wards. Mm-hmm.
and it's probably Haviliard or Moonbeam. I'm just kidding. But like, that's something about who Rhys is. Also note that she likes the emotions she's feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot what that's about, but she says it somewhere.
I do love that he is already like, so he's using his wings to sort of herd her, right? That's a vulnerability level, right? And then is it here, or I
So
think it's on the
flirty.
next page?
This whole scene is so flirty.
Yeah. Oh, it's on the next page, so we'll wait. But anyways, I do love that the mention of friends already. And then, she's like, I didn't even know you had friends. She's
You
being a
never
dick.
asked.
And you didn't ask, right? And like, he just meets it. He doesn't even take offense by it. You didn't ask. Just,
Yeah.
like, right there, just banter already.
Yeah.
And then, right, Rhys was close enough now that that he slid his arm around my waist, both of his wings encircling me, my spine locked up, a cage, and then immediately he backs his wings up. And whether or not her shields are up or down, he can already feel like, oh, too closed in.
He's
And
very
he just
attuned to
gets
her.
it. And then this thing happens, and this is weird for her because she's human at her core, kind of. Mm-hmm. Mother saved me.
She did already say cauldron something before.
It's just so crazy though. Like, she is, because in Spring Court she was like, I don't care to know these people, I don't care to know this bullshit, I don't even want to be like, there's kind of a resentment and a resistance a little bit to her having turned Fae. And here she is just casually throwing out religious things.
Yeah.
Cultural things. And like, granted, she's been Fae for like, 6 months or so, but it's just crazy that like the sort of casualness of which she's assimilating and taking on the sort of ownership of this culture, I just thought was really interesting. That it was just like, bracing for takeoff, mother saved me. She's just leaning right into it. Mm-hmm. And then it's right, she's already interested in flying, right? I debated pushing him on it, on insisting I stay, but to stay for what? To sleep, to avoid a meeting that I should most certainly have before deciding what I want to do with myself, and to fly. And she's like, I don't know, man. I'd just be kind of fucking sick to fly. Like, that's what that is.
Yeah.
And I do love that she's like, please don't drop me, and please don't. She's going to say, like, don't fly too fast. And he's just like, baby girl, I'm going to fuck you up right now.
And but she doesn't scream that much. He's like, I expected more screaming from you. I must not be trying hard enough. They're so flirty.
But that's also a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek there too, because like, she'll scream later.
Yeah. I will also say, right after, like, as they're landing and they're getting close to it, she says something tight in my chest ease a fraction of its grip. Mm-hmm. And I was like, is that because you're getting close to the destination, it's almost over? Or is it like, I think, it's like, it could be relief like that, but I think it's also like she conquered this fear or just enjoyment.
I think it's enjoyment because we're sort of close, right? But we still have a whole kind of conversation before we get really to landing. Right? She's like, with the sky wheeling overhead and the lights shooting past us, up and down became mirrors, right? So because the city looks like the stars, right? And like, until we were sailing through the sea of stars, right? She's free. She feels free in this moment and trusting. She loosens up her grip. She's like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah. And then we get some Rhys lore.
Mm-hmm.
And that, the sadness about not realizing the size of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I wrote.
Huh?
I'd spent so much. So I wrote in connection to this, right? I spent so much time squatting in trees at heights that heights had lost their primal terror long ago. But the sprawl of the city, worse, the vast expanse of dark beyond the sea, maybe I remained a human fool to feel that way, but I had not recognized the size of the world, the size of Prithian, if the city this large can remain hidden from Amarantha from the others in the court. And I wrote, just a small town girl living in a lonely world.
It does give that
She
took a
took the
midnight
midnight
flight
train, going anywhere.
in Rhys's arms.
And then we get the, out with it, say what's on your mind, thought for a thought. And he gives her some vulnerable thoughts.
Very vulnerable, and more than he bargained for. And she then one-ups him as well.
Yeah.
Which she seems like she's gonna not do it, and then she just is like, let's say it all. I think
But also,
yeah.
maybe it was some shred of courage or recklessness, or that I was high above everything, that no one save Rhys and the wind could hear me. But I said, that's exactly what she says at the end of the first book. When she goes, maybe it was
on
because
the back balcony.
On the back balcony, when he pulls on the bond to take her upstairs and say goodbye to her. That's exactly what she says. Like, he asks her something or he says something and she's like, maybe it was because it was just, he was the only one who could hear me. Maybe because it was just us up here. And she is vulnerable in that last moment. And that same thought where she's like, maybe it's courage or recklessness, or maybe it's just because I'm safe and he's the only one that's going to hear it. And then I wonder if Cassian heard it all.
No, probably not. But,
yeah. Well, it says because, then that was 5.
A lot.
Yeah, and then but he says that was 5. Looks like I owe you 2 more thoughts. And then he glances and says later, because there's 2, male winged males from earlier standing in the doorway grinning. I'm wondering if they heard all this.
I think not. I think,
Yeah. Even still, she does give up a lot.
It's a lot. Well, because I think a lot of these chapters are her admitting slowly, like,
she also gives up a lot, not just about how she feels, but like she's talking about Tamlin a lot here.
Yeah. The moment where you can start to be like, that guy was an asshole, is the moment you realize you're not gonna make excuses for him. You're now moving into a different stage. And I think like that's what she's been moving towards this whole chapter and in 14 as well. So it makes sense.
Well, and even like I'm thinking there's a great deal of territory that I was never allowed to see or hear about, and maybe I would have lived in ignorance for forever, like some pet.
Yes.
Like already realizing what that relationship was and would have been, and that there was no growing in there. And then acknowledging why she fell in love with Tamlin and how that's not what she needs anymore, right? I'm thinking that I was lonely. I was a lonely, helpless person, and I might have fallen in love with the first thing that showed me any hint of kindness and safety. And I'm thinking maybe he knew that, maybe not actively, but maybe he wanted to be that person for someone, and maybe that worked for who I was before. Maybe it doesn't work for who I am, what I am now. And like that's powerful for her, but also powerful for her to speak out loud and for him to hear.
Yeah, I'm sure like if I'm Rhys and my crush, this girl that I've been like in love with for like several months now, that you're just like, oh, it's happening. It's happening. Like that's what I'm thinking. Like
that, and also it also gives him a little bit of insight as to what she wants and needs now.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell him what he wants and what she needs now, but it definitely tells him what not to do.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's like, how can I help?
That?
Sure.
Like, I think he wouldn't have made those mistakes either.
Very true.
But it is also like it.
But it also gives him hope that like, well, I would do things differently. Yeah, I would do things
like I'm gonna pull more aside and run to the bathroom and be like, she was like, Like, I'm screwing.
I would pour more to the bathroom.
Or somebody, like, whatever girl.
She said she doesn't need Tamlin anymore.
Yeah,
At all.
dude.
That
You're texting your
and
bestie the second you hear that.
yeah.
Oh, mind speaking. They can speak in their mind.
Yeah. She just said that she doesn't want him and she never wants him again and that he can't give her what she wants and that she wants something completely new. And Moore's like, get it, babe. Go get your girl. Go get your girl.
Like Azriel and Cassian are just grinning. Maybe it's because he's like in his main, he's like, mission have her hate Tamlin is a no. And then they just start when she turns around.
He's like, you don't have to talk shit about Tamlin. She knows. And they're like, sweet.
Yeah. Because it is funny how they're grinning. It's like kind of like this funny ending.
They're also such little gossip bitches because you know that they're like
that
what
bitch
happened?
Tamlin.
Well, not only that, but like they're like when your friend has a crush and you're like elbowing
if you see
them
interact, you're like, we're talking about this, and
yes,
the second they leave the room,
and like
we're talking about this,
and or even just like Cassian's probably like, finally me and Azriel has some shit to talk about that's not the Illyrians. Like, you know, they're like, finally some excitement here. They're just being little,
they're excited
being
to just
little
meet her because they've heard about her.
And they're like being such little girly pops about this. I love this. They're just like, who's your friend, Rhys? Who's this?
It wouldn't have to be, list all her details.
Yeah, right.
I can just imagine, like, they're talking at dinner, and she's like, well, I used to do this, and Cassian's like, I know. And she's like, what? And he's like, no, never mind. I know about paints. That's what I meant.
I know about paints.
Because she's like, oh, I painted this, and he's like, yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah.
More painted it in my mind. Exactly. You painted the actor. It's weird. I have military strategy to talk with you about. Just kidding. But.
Yeah. But yes, they're such little like high school girls right now. They're like, ooh, they're talking.
Yeah. That's honestly the best feeling. I love scheming and scamming.
So next week we'll do chapter 16. To the stars who listen, we'll see you next week.